All right, so not all defects are created equal, and not all are easy to spot, but can cost you thousands of dollars. Today, I'm going to talk with you about two different types of defects in a home buying or home ownership process, and that is known as material and latent defects. So this is good information whether you are planning to buy a house or you currently own a house. So let's talk about it. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Kim McBride, also known as Get Keys with Kim. I'm a licensed associate broker as well as a broker in real estate in Maryland, DC, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and the Dominican Republic. Let's get started. So material defects usually affect things like value, safety, and use. Most likely, they are discoverable or easily identifiable when a buyer comes to like a home inspection, or an appraiser could notice this, right? So these are things like issues with the roof, or cracks in a foundation, active water damage, a broken HVAC system. HVAC is heating, ventilation, and AC, right? Those are just a few examples of what material defects could be. Usually things that you can notice and see what I say is your naked eye. Depending on what state you live in, sellers may be required to disclose this information, which could, in fact, affect a buyer's decision to purchase the house, but that is not an excuse not to share that information. They can also affect things like financing, pricing, and even insurability. And it's not a legal defense for a seller to say, well, I forgot to share this information. Again, depending on what state you live, it could lead to some serious legal ramifications or issues. So get with a real estate agent in your area to determine if a seller, or if you are a seller, if you need to disclose material defects. Then you have something known as latent defects. And these are usually the ones that are hidden, ones that you would not normally see with your naked eye if you were walking through the house. So as an example, it could be things wrong with the electrical not being up to code, or issues with the plumbing system, or even mold behind the walls, or a flood that happened in the house that was covered up and never disclosed. Now, there are going to be some things that sellers just don't know, right? It could have been an issue prior to their ownership of the property, but if they have owned the property and they know of these issues and they fail to disclose, my God, what comes after could really be crazy, especially depending on whether the buyer is still under contract or settlement has occurred and now the buyer has moved in. So let's talk about that as well. So if a buyer is under contract, a few things can happen. They could terminate the agreement altogether and walk away. They could work with the seller to negotiate the price. They could talk about having the repairs done prior to them closing on the property. It could be a combination of a few of these things, which unfortunately could also delay closing. So if closing is set for a certain date, if these issues come up, material or latent defects, and they need to be addressed, it could mean that the closing date could potentially be pushed back. If the buyer decides to terminate the contract, at least in Maryland, let me talk about Maryland for a second, and the house goes back on the market, if the seller does not get those issues addressed, then they are required to disclose those issues to the next individuals, buyers, anyone looking to come see the house. This is also why home inspections are so important. In Maryland, and usually across the country, the US, they are not required. It is an option that the buyer can opt into. And I always recommend that buyers, whether you've bought and sold houses a million times, you should always get a home inspection, because one, you don't know what you don't know. Unless you are a home inspector, you're hiring someone that has the professional expertise, the knowledge, the experience of things to look for that you wouldn't even think of. I will likely do a video on home inspections because I think that's really good information for you to have. But until then, I want you to make it a great day on purpose. I want you to do something nice for someone else. I want you to like this. I want you to share. I want you to comment. I want you to ask your questions. I want you to come back for more. And then I want you to do what? Get keys with Kim. All right, I'll talk to y'all later. Deuces.